for a change?
Well, let's start with English and we can go to Russian if needed. Just be flexible.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm the track leader. My name is Alexei. I work in a big Russian bank. We have subsidiaries abroad. Actually, we have subsidiaries in quite exotic locations, including Vietnam. Well, it's actually a joint venture bank in Vietnam, but it doesn't matter. Angola. We have a bank in Angola. We have a few banks in the CIS. Some countries like Belarus, right? Belarus, whatever. The Ukraine, I think, is with the definite article. No? Okay, I thought it's the Ukraine. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, which is not part of the CIS now, but still, and Armenia. I hope I didn't forget anything. Then we have a subsidiary in Shanghai, which is China, and we have a few banks in Europe. Austria, yeah. We're currently looking for a CFO for Austrian banks, so if you know anyone, please let me know. Okay. Right, yeah, and other banks in Europe like France, Germany, and Cyprus, the notorious country.
I only think about those people for Cyprus.
No, we feel good in Cyprus. Yeah, feel good. Well, and the topic of this track is international recruitment. I know I wasn't supposed to prepare, but I have a few items on the agenda. Maybe we can talk about difficulties associated with workforce forecasting and planning. What do you think? Is it an interesting topic?
So like more like workforce planning.
Yeah, workforce planning.
In a global scale.
Now, let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about global trends. You know, what's happening around the world in terms of workforce. What's happening, you know, to the workforce globally. Why is it difficult to plan workforce for your organization if it is a multinational company? Please.
I guess there's so many
companies.
Yeah, but still, maybe you know, something's happening and you heard about it.
Actually, I'm from a national company, but the matter is that I'm responsible only for Russia, and just somehow I know what is the situation in Armenia because I was in charge for starting up this subsidiary, but afterwards it was run around Kiev, and it was after 2 years it will be reporting to the corporate office. So from this moment on, I don't know what's going on in Armenia, for example. So, and I don't know what about Cyprus, and so just maybe you'll tell us if you are, of course, if you're in charge of planning the human resources.
Yeah, what about Armenia? Was it hard to recruit people in Armenia?
Yes, I think it was because of their mentality. For example, in such positions like GAP manager, of course, people are not familiar with the standards.
US gap,
Yeah, US gap, yeah. And it's difficult. And the only thing to do is to hunt these people from other companies. Like Coca-Cola, for example, and so on.
Local offices. Do you mean local offices of Coca-Cola in Armenia to your company?
Yeah, we were looking for an HR manager for Azerbaijani bank, which was quite a long story.
How long?
For a year.
Did you find that person?
Why?
Yeah, we actually found recently. I don't know. There are.
Wasn't you thinking about relocating person?
Yeah. No.
No?
Why not?
Because of the language.
Because of the salary.
Salary?
And because of the package you have to provide if it's an expatriate. HR manager, the costs will be quite high. And this person will not know the local legislation and will not speak the local language.
Okay.
And so we decided to find the local person. And there are quite a few international companies in Azerbaijan, especially oil and gas companies, but HR managers are in very short supply and they are quite expensive there. So companies compete they steal HR managers from each other, so they are overpaid in Azerbaijan at the moment. We finally found an HR manager from a smallish bank, which was an international subsidiary. But we hired her not for the position of the HR manager. She was like a deputy HR manager because she was quite junior, but we couldn't find a better person for the money that we had there. Any other stories about international?
Unfortunately, I'm not working in a multinational company, but I work in a recruiting agency. But 2 weeks ago, I returned from the trip to Silicon Valley, where I was on a program for Russian entrepreneurs, and for me, it was about recruiting in USA. And maybe I can tell that there is a huge problem with IT specialists and
in Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
It's
a massive problem.
Yes.
Average people are way too expensive.
10K plus normal.
Yeah.
And if some programmer came to Silicon Valley, everybody hunts him for many different companies. And for me it was very interesting that, for example, in Google, every employee have to make interviews with new potential candidates even you are a programmer or accountant, anyone else, and everybody get a training about how to make interviews. And it was interesting that in USA you don't have to you must not have a license to do recruiting services. And it's strange because even taxi drivers have to have a license, and there are many recruiting agencies here. I don't know.
Within Europe, only Switzerland has you have to have a license to run a recruitment agency, and all the other countries have dropped that. So it's more or less now going in that direction, but there's no license.
Yeah, where there is a license, but it's just like going to the post office. You just go and say, can I have a license?
And then there is those umbrella companies that are providing licenses.
The license means nothing. You just register someone to say, can I have a license? So even when we have a license, it doesn't actually. We used to have licenses in the UK. It doesn't mean anything because anyone can get one.
Yeah.
So there's no qualification.
No, and there's only ever about one person every 5 years. No, one person every 5 years loses their license. So, even having a license doesn't really matter.
Yeah. But I guess like my observation working with multinationals is that there is no global companies. There is only local companies, and if you have a office in Azerbaijan or in Russia or in Cyprus, it's always local directly. When you have to do the research, you have to understand the market, or you need to look what is the supply demand. And very few companies actually understand enough when they go to the market, what is the situation there. Should they even, like workers' colleague perspective, set up somewhere. That if let's say, should you set up in Silicon Valley because you need to pay 10 times more maybe than in some other location? Should you locate the team somewhere else by just understanding what are the supply demand situation?
Yeah, there is a supply-demand issue for sure, because I read somewhere that we live in a two-speed world, where in some countries there is a shortage of labor, and in some countries there is a surplus of labor. So, like in Silicon Valley, there's a shortage of labor, but maybe, I don't know, in some other place, in Brazil or India, there is a surplus of IT specialists. So how do you balance that?
And then the culture difference is extreme when you need to understand as well, okay, if you locate somewhere in India or in Brazil, it will not be the same as having it in Silicon Valley. So.
It's a problem for them in a state level. That's why everybody hears about new law, new for visas, which to make more visas, which will be for IT specialists to go to America, because it's not enough.
All right, government regulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when you go to the country, then you have to as well understand, okay, what are the reasons? If you talk like US, it's big. And in China, like if you go to and need to do something in China, it's like 35 different regions that you need to look at and understand the dynamics in different regions, and it's not one. It's again very locally, and depends where you're hiring and what is the situation there now. For example, there is, as I assume that here as well, trend that people prefer more those local companies instead of multinational companies for many reasons, and one of the reasons is that they want to actually not anymore move to big cities, not necessarily go to Beijing, for example, because and then as well they cannot. There is the Hokkaido system that they cannot even get the social security number there. They cannot get the mortgage. They cannot get any of those kind of things because it's not one China. All the regions are led by regional authorities. So it's very, very difficult, and as well from the kind of workforce planning perspective, you have to have a lot of data and understand the data, and it's moving and changing all the time. And is it easy to get access to that kind of information if you have it within your organization already? How many different countries?
It's 15 countries, I think. 15 different countries.
And different cities even within the countries? So.
Yeah, in some countries we have large banks, so they have offices in different cities.
And how often you start with research before you start to recruit, or is it more like, okay, we need this new person, and then we start to actually recruiting, not do the research first?
Well, depends. But we have two options basically. We have expatriates, right? We can use international assignees, so to speak. We take people from the parent country, from Russia, and we send them to China or wherever. And we have the second option is to hire locals. Or maybe the third option, we hire third country nationals, like we take a guy from Georgia and put him into Armenia. Yeah, but that's the three options that we have.
In, for example, case that you said that, okay, it would be an option to send somebody from Russia to China. Then again, how well that person can understand what is the management culture in China. Last month we had events in Beijing and Shanghai, and one of the main kind of key points was that actually you should only hire those people that are been or are still married with local, because then they have actually experienced the culture and can actually understand how the whole system in China works. So it's not that easy. Okay, maybe the skills are there, but then you send somebody to manage a team which is Chinese people.
You hire like a Westerner who's married to a local.
Married to local.
Yeah. The really interesting work I've seen recently is being done in Ireland, in Cork, and they've launched two sites, one called Recruit or Make It, like Make IT in Ireland and Make IT in Cork. And why they've done it is they've got all of the big employers are there. So they've got Oracle, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google, everyone's in Ireland because of the tax benefits. But there's just not enough people. So they've actually got all the big companies have got together and they worked on what they're calling country branding. So they're actually producing a lot of content about why this is a good place. What they've agreed is, let's just get people to look at Ireland. And then once they've decided Ireland's a good place, then we'll find them on ourselves.
Right.
But let's put our resources together and say, let's spend our money and say,
So you market the country.
market the country. So all the things people are interested in, like if somebody's going to bring their family, schools,
Right.
the standard of living, social life,
Yes.
Guinness, whatever it is. So
Kilkenny.
all those kind of things. Pictures of the beaches. Their logo is a surfboard. It's actually an IT. You don't think that the logo is a surfboard, so you're 10 minutes from the beach and here's lots of pictures of the beach. It's not about IT. So they're working really hard, and we're seeing more talk in this direction that actually every country that's trying to develop, particularly in technology, has a skill shortage. Even if every single person who graduated got a job, there still wouldn't be enough people for the jobs that are there.
And here is the Slow project that is, I guess, kind of as well boosting the IT sector.
Yeah,
It's good for locals. Isn't it?
it's good for locals.
When
Yeah.
you looked for people to Ireland, from which countries did candidates?
They're targeting everywhere, so you're targeting candidates, but you're looking for certain people. So if you know, for instance, that your school system is good, that you can provide a quality of life, then you're going to target people by demographics. So you're going to go and target that. Who's maybe got, rather than targeting graduates, you might say, right, okay, let's look for people who are, and you can lots of places you can in social, you can go in social media. Like Facebook, you can identify people who've got families, who've got 2 children,
How old
school
were your
age.
candidates?
Sorry?
How old were your candidates?
It really depends what you're looking for, actually. So it depends on the company, but generally, if you are hiring programmers who are 30 plus, they're likely to be attracted by family values rather than career values. And they'll be less attracted by Google, but they're going to have to work 100 hours a week. And more
Sounds like he's interested in going
Yeah.
to Ireland.
And then what they as well has it is kind of mixture of startups and big companies, because there is a lot of people that doesn't want to work with startup, but what if the startup doesn't make it? Then they have the option always to go to, let's say, Microsoft or Google or any of those companies. So that there is like, they try to make it attractive to people to locate here, primarily locate with Ireland, and then divide that pool of talent within the companies.
I think anything like that is deciding, first of all, you decide who your audience is. So who are your target base? And then you study your audience to see what things are these people actually interested in. And then you produce content around the things that they're interested in. How can we make it attractive? And you actually work on destination marketing. So it might be something, in Russia, again, that's what you have to look at. So why do people come here? If people came here because they see they can earn a lot of money, then you concentrate on the money marketing. If people are attracted here because, for some people, it's going to be, emerging nations are exciting.
What else is Google Search?
Question, is government involved?
Yeah, that's all government funded.
Is,
The site is government funded. So, because they recognise the problem.
But all the companies that are involved as well invested in. So
Yeah.
there is this mixture of
The companies also have put a big part into making the site.
Quick question,
Yeah.
based on my experience. Very recently, I had a big project, big mandate from a very big Russian investment fund,
Yeah.
which is head of investor relations and fundraising, and they actually wanted people from not from Russia or CIS. They wanted people from big names from US, from Western Europe, Dubai, and Asia. And I marketed this position to over 400 people globally.
Yeah.
I did my job because it's a time difference. And only 4 agreed.
Yeah.
And those were top managers. My audience was men and women aged 38-55. People whose base salary starts at 500 US a year, K a year. And I was surprised. Why? Because my client offered more money.
Money, it doesn't, once you get to that stage, money's not important.
I agree.
There's a certain level, so
There is a certain level at which money does not matter.
money's not important. So, if you're in that age group, you've got family,
Yes.
family,
that's what I'm talking
security, these. So,
Yes.
so I think that the way that you do any of these exercises go beyond sourcing. So the first thing you do is you source your target group. Who are these people? Then you profile them in terms of looking at all the things they're doing. If they're out of Russia in particular, you get a lot of information from social profiles. What things do they like? What are their hobbies? Where do they check into on Foursquare? When you can profile people to say, how can I target that individual with an approach? So every approach
But
is
the question is, they did not want to go to Russia. They would love to go from Washington to London. They would love to go from London to Europe.
what was the theme? What was the reason they didn't want to come to Russia? Because they thought they were going to get robbed.
Maybe it's just a general whatever stereotype against Russia or whatever. They simply did not want to go to Russia.
But
Maybe it's too far.
the same answer would come if you start cold calling these people to, hey, come to Ireland, this is a fantastic place. If they would not actually showcase how it actually is, a lot of stories about people.
You need to start. That's why it's longer than a transaction. It's longer than a recruiting campaign, because what you're doing is you're feeding content over time to your target audience. So if it's a job, that's a very transactional decision. I show you a job, you make a decision about, do I want to live in the country, am I interested in the job? And at that point, and when you're older, if you're in that kind of 38 plus salary bracket, your family stuff is the most important for most people of that age. They're worried about children, schools, healthcare.
All those are reasons not to go to
Right.
But then you have to really kind of.
Then you have to go back and say, first of all, so what I find is if you can collect data, so if you can actually collect information on that target audience, quite often you can go back to whoever's doing the hiring and say, this is the reason you're hiring the wrong people. The people who would be interested in coming to Russia are a younger age group who see this as expanding nation, land of opportunity. I can achieve things much quicker in Russia than I can here. Profiling who would actually be interested. And people who are, because all kinds of things, all kinds of considerations. This isn't just internationally. So even locally, if you look at somewhere like the States, the UK. So in the UK, if I've got somebody working in London with a family, their children are about 12, 14, they're in the school system, they're settled in school, they have their friend network. It's a big thing to say, let's move you 100 miles or 200 miles. You know, it's not going to be about cash. It's got to be about the fact that I actually believe this is going to improve the quality of life for my family and make it better.
Actually, interestingly enough, we've been doing a couple of projects, senior profiles for CEO positions, and you're talking about expanding the profile down to the certain age group. We actually found a whole bunch of guys up in the
I think you will do.
55 and up, in fact.
Yes.
The career is pretty much done. This is not even.
And they're not going to get an opportunity in what you'd call a established. They're not going to get an opportunity in the States.
They go for different. Most of the time, money isn't even a question.
Yeah, it's because their kids are grown up and
Yeah.
they want to.
No, that's a different thing again. So when you're going to the other end, so you've got the two ends of the scale. So the people are probably aged between 30 and 50. It's family. For most, not everybody, but most people, it's going to be family orientated. That's where the resistance is going to become. Underneath that age, it's going to be opportunity.
Right.
Can I do things quicker? Over that, that's... So, so for instance, we found a lot in, particularly around Brazil and Argentina, in the automotive industry. It's been quite easy to hire people out of places like Detroit, where the automotive industry is declining, to go and say, this is where the opportunity is. So, you know, if you want to prolong your career, this is where you're going to have to do it.
Yeah, this is exactly what happened when we staffed our Vietnamese subsidiary with expatriates, because the people who went there were either unmarried young people, but professionals and with many
Land of opportunity, let's go and do something different.
They wanted an international challenge, they didn't have any commitments back home. Or they were guys 50 and above who had their kids out of college and they were kind of a little bit bored with the job.
Well, their own career in their own country is probably going nowhere at that point. It is where it is.
But then in Russia, you got to worry about the fact that it's presumed that 50 plus means that you are a pensioner from the Soviet times and you know nothing about the economy.
Oh, I get that. I get that. But then sometimes, I don't know Russian well enough to say this definitely works, but sometimes when you can collect data and go back and say, right, you know, we've approached or we've profiled 100 people who fit the target, and this is what you're going to get. So you've got to make that decision.
Right off the start, we worked the employer, the hiring manager, telling him, you know, you're not going to find, you're setting the bracket 30 to 35. You're simply not going to find people with relevant experience of high enough level in this age group overseas where you're looking
for. Or who want to come.
Well, who want to come wasn't an issue at that point, but really, you will not find those people there. They are at the higher age group, and of course, the fact that they will not come is not.
Yeah, so it's then a matter of knowing your audience and knowing what are the push points.
Yeah, but of course you can try to persuade someone with a family to go to Angola, for example, and
no, they're not going to go. If you've got a family, if you have a family, you're not going to go. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to get involved.
Yeah, but then
just
the risk is there is a high risk that this person is going to fail because of family issues.
Yeah,
we worked with an organisation who actually hired just in Angola, where they wanted to know how to target people in social media, and it really was people who wanted money, people who needed money quickly. So we actually targeted them through the Google AdWords via the deadlines. So people who met the profile and were searching for loans. So we were able to offer them go and earn some cash quick by knowing. And that's about
What
profile.
kind of jobs?
Sorry?
What kind of jobs?
It was engineering and stuff like that. So they do things like heating and ventilation, but you'd go to Angola, you'd live in a campus.
A project work.
You'd live in, 2 years, 3 years, you'd live in a campus, you'd earn a lot of money, you would do nothing but work and be in this campus with your colleagues because it wasn't safe to go out. Every month or so you'd get shelled and mortared. It's like the guys who go to Iraq or Afghanistan or anything like that. They would never do it with their family, but they'll go...
It's when there was the war, right? It's during the war.
Yeah, it's still a little bit...
No, it's pretty peaceful at the moment. We have our bank, our offices in the center of the city.
Yeah.
Our employees live in buildings.
Okay.
Just
So then what you're working on is changing that perception that it's...
Yeah, we kind of improve the image from Gola.
Yeah. So the only way you can change to get people to consider things is by targeted content over time. You can't. So you start with your target group and say these are the types of people. You can't change people's mind in a transactional recruiting position when you approach people about jobs. So I think what you do is you build up a network of go search for people who fit the profiles of what we're looking for, look at what they're interested in, and then start feeding them content. You kind of just drip it in. And the more that you drip it in, and then start going, actually, you know what, I might just...
How do you feed content?
How do you feed content to people? Sharing referrals, so referral content, who are they connected with, who we're connected with. So we use some technology to do that in social networks. So if you're connected with someone and you're a Java programmer, and it's Java programmers I'm looking for, instead of in the same way as I might ask you to share a job with somebody, I ask you to share content. Can you send them this video? Can you send them this picture? Can you like this on Facebook? Can you? And we just slowly find touch points to say, the more that we show you, this is just actually marketing rather than recruitment. This is how you do things. The more that you show people things, the more it goes in their mind to think, you know what, maybe it's worth investigating a bit further.
You need to sell that sometimes. And what we did with Angola, I sent them the article from our corporate newspaper about our bank in Angola, how successful it is, and what kind of people work there. Then I advised them to check, stuff online. And but of course, if there is zero motivation, you can't create it.
Yeah, the other thing that's really worked is once you've got your target audience, connect them with people who actually work in that country for your organisation. Through whatever channel you're using. So making it very easy for people to connect. If I'm a programmer, make it easy for me to connect with programmers in Angola. I'm going to believe you if you're a programmer and I say, is it all right? Are the bombs still going off? And you're going to no, we don't have any problem. We have a good quality of life. I'm going to believe that. If I ask a recruiter that, I'm going to believe that.
And we put them on conference calls with our...
Well, you wouldn't do it. You don't, because you're going to say, yeah, it's great. Come and work it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You only have the occasional explosion.
We put them on conference calls with our employees in Angola, so they ask questions and they answer.
You kind of also have to go beyond that, because when it's a conference call or fixed online chat organised by the company, there's still a degree of feeling that this is marketing.
I know.
It's good. It's a good step. What I look at doing is, right, okay, let's just send the connection, say connect to talk to these people. Do it in your own leisure time. Ask the questions that you want, and they'll tell you. And it can really, but a lot of that international recruiting is really destination. How do we make this place exciting or not? Which is quite interesting.
There is a big prejudice against Russia among very many people whom I contacted. And for some people it was the issue of family. How do I fit my family and myself into this completely new environment?
This new culture.
Culture, exactly.
Yeah.
And for some people it was, well, Russia on the same par with Mexico, with some people.
But it's true.
That's the same thing, when
Crime.
Yeah.
Yes, anti-American hatred, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
I'm interesting about the dynamics, because I was working for investment bank in 2008 here in Moscow, and we hired internationally, very successful. And most of it was still, as you said, to do with challenges of work. People that married, they didn't have kids. We're talking about investment banking anyway, so it was all about money, but not just. It was also, of course, about...
They like to earn money in different places.
Different places. And of course, the challenges. The way that we did business here in Russia at that time was new. You couldn't find that in London, you couldn't find that in New York. That's why they were attractive.
Growth opportunities.
Growth opportunities. Just about the dynamics. And at that time also, another point we maybe can talk about later is about repatriation. At that time it was a big thing, getting the Russians back to Moscow. Because at that time already we had Russians who were coming down from Harvard and Oxford, so that was also awesome. What's it like now? I have the impression that now it's actually getting less and less. First of all, repatriation somehow has just died down. It only picked up again because so many Russians were made unemployed, redundant
in London, so they came back. They came back out of necessity.
They come out of necessity, not because they wanted to come back. And the question is, my impression is that internationally it's getting more difficult to attract candidates to Moscow. Do you agree or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say so.
But what can we make to change the situation?
What are the objects when they know what
Well, I mean, the thing, what remains is that this is a very professionally, very challenging environment. It is very different in ways. Although you do, this is what I would add to the candidate profile, there are these people who do these kind of things in many emerging markets. So you find the fact
there's people who are emerging market people. They want to go wherever it is.
And even you can even see that within the global companies, these people don't get moved around. They never get back to headquarters.
Well, we see that when we do True Hong Kong and these places. It's people there who are really,
But maybe
they're professional experts.
Russia is not currently that trendy. I mean, those people, maybe Latin America, even more challenges. Asia, maybe it's just a competition for those kind of people that are those that will go to Afghanistan to war or Russia to.
That's the thing. It's where are my choices? If I've got to choose a country, what are my choices in that list? Do I go to Brazil? Do I go?
But as I say,
Where do I go?
if the choice is now between Afghanistan and Russia, then obviously we've got a big problem. And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
When I approach a candidate, for example, with about a position in Angola, I don't start with, we want you to go to Angola. I ask, well, would you be interested in an international challenge? Yes. Okay. Where would you like to go? What is your country wish list, so to speak? And
then they give you the wishes. You go, well, it's none of them.
It's a country that starts with an A.
Yeah, it's top of the A list.
You haven't heard it before, but it's very
yeah, but you start from from far away, and then you say, well, we have banks in Western Europe, in Asia, in Angola also. And then I listen to the reaction. Says Angola, no way, no, never. So then I say, okay, no, probably not for Angola, but maybe I'll put him on hold and come back if we have a position in, Austria or somewhere else.
See, one of the interesting points you made, which I'm seeing more of, and it's proving quite effective, is this repatriation. So it's targeting nationals who are working abroad. So less opportunity to do that without governments, I guess, but targeting expats who are working abroad. So I've seen they're doing a lot of that in Ireland at the moment. Same thing. They're looking at the US and they started running.
We actually covered the same topic, but for internal Russian migration, people coming from Moscow back to regions now.
And it's the same thing in China.
But what reasons? What do you think? Most reasons?
They want to. The quality of living, cheaper.
Sometimes the opportunities as well.
The parents, most of the time, they're still there. Opportunities for growth again.
Well, again, certain age, parents getting older, people want to worry about. Let's move back and spend a bit. I've got a friend who's very, very good recruiter, ex-Russian. Well, not ex-Russian, but she's now got a US passport. She's been in Russia for about 20 years, but her family is now getting to the point where they're not going to be around for too much longer. And she's saying, maybe I need to go back.
It's not the arena. Shamayev?
You know Arena?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Arena's my good friend. Okay. Arena's my good friend. So people start looking at things and saying, should we be?
Yeah.
Suddenly things start becoming attractive and interesting destinations.
Well, again, it works differently from the place, and I don't want to put down Moscow, but from the places like Moscow with stress and a whole bunch of different reasons the way they are, you would probably, coming to parents, you want to bring the parents where you are, where it's nice. But seriously, right now, I'm from a smaller city. I'm not from Moscow originally, so I'm from Nizhny Novgorod, so it's 400 kilometers, but it's so much easier and nicer lifestyle.
And if you start getting opportunities that weren't there before, previously you had to come to Moscow for work. That was
absolutely. It's still in most of the cases that's the case. In most of the industries, most of the opportunities exist in Moscow, but there are some.
But this comes back to, again, for me, is talent mapping. Who are you looking for?
Yeah.
Where are they? What are they doing? What's their dynamics? Where are they in their life? How can you start tailoring content and approach to those people to make it so suddenly it's not such a strange suggestion.
Yep.
But as well, there's a lot of objections and those kind of things that are like related to maybe Russia as a country that should be then, or some destination like Angola. Maybe they are just, they have heard something that is in the news and that's the perception of the country, and
Yeah.
they have nothing good in their mind. And when you say that maybe Angola, they just have very wrong impression about the whole destination. And then you should be able to kind of put those objections there that, okay, it's actually safe. Very nice.
We have the same thing, by the way. I've done the True South Africa twice. So Cape Town, Johannesburg, you believe you get robbed when you get off the plane. You believe that it's that. Actually, there are parts of South Africa which are not great in terms of the risk, but in the cities and stuff, it's a really good quality of life. People love it, and they've had to work very hard on saying, maybe you could have a good life here. Weather's great.
Come on. The impression, if it's not artificially made in media, it's always exaggerated. And they always go where the
people tend to believe.
And this is what people hear. When they think about Russia, the worst thing that they pick up in the media is what they think. Yeah, you got to read between the lines. So.
Russia's been quite different to what I expected. Actually. That's a perception. Not in a good or bad way, I just thought it was going to be different. I thought Russia was going to be more like...
It was good.
No, I thought Russia was going to be more like Hungary and Romania. In people, which is not...
Well, the Moscow, you go outside of Moscow and you find more of that.
More or less, when you go to any capital in the world, they are quite same, but if you go outside of Moscow, if you go outside of any big city, it will change quite much.
Yeah, so I guess when it comes to getting to the point of international recruitment and workforce planning in different countries, you have to know the country well, get the input from locals, and you got to fix your expectations and plan the profiling. What are you planning to hire in those countries?
Why should someone work in Moscow? You're here, you tell me why.
Money, opportunity, in terms of moving up and sideways in organizations.
But
Because money is the biggest one.
But then again, if you look at any global trends and the values and how it's changed, people less and less, like in the my generation, they are not that interested in that. If the money is the one.
Once you reach a certain point, it's clear. If you're at the bottom of the ladder.
No, but even then, this is okay. Just HR, that's sort of classic stuff. But money is the hygiene factor, right? It is possible as a demotivator. It's too low comparatively, but it's not the motivator.
Although it depends on circumstances, because
if you're blue collar, fair enough.
Yeah, in China people will move.
But the thing is that in China they don't really move. They stay in local companies. They don't want to go to Beijing. They don't want to go to Shanghai because they have the opportunities there locally within local companies, and they have the.
And the job title. Job title is the most important thing in China.
And they're going to have even a social security number and mortgage in the bank if they don't move.
Everybody's a manager or a vice president.
We're very close to China in that respect.
Yeah.
It's very
So the job title is very
10% people are ready to move for 10% more salary, and that's even middle management.
So about 10% of the people will have a look at it.
And there are various reasons. I won't go into the reasons for that because it is actually quite.
But is that a case of they'll move for 10% in Russia, whereas outside that's not a big factor? Is that part of your international thing?
That's right.
You can't attract people in the same way when you're looking globally.
But I assume that if your answer is money is the key thing, if you look any global statistics, money is less and less important for people to choose the job for. I mean, that as well that you don't attract if the money is the...
This is why it's hard to recruit into Russia.
Yeah, but then it should be as well the framed, okay, what are the other things that we could use? Because if you start with, okay, the paycheck is the only thing, and that's about it.
Let's make a survey. Girls, would you move to another country, and if you had a choice, where would you go to work?
In Europe.
Why Europe? There is, global economic downturn.
Yes, I know, but it's about something inside. I really have a dream to move to Spain. I don't care that it's without jobs. I would like to live near the sea.
Girls.
Yes, it's really interesting. Spain has about the worst economy of any.
Yeah.
It's like 20% of
But you know, there's this Russian saying that between two evils, you choose the one, you know, the best one. And there is there is one that is a bit different wording. That from the two evils, you pick one that you haven't experienced in the past. This is the story with Russia. You're in Moscow and you want to be somewhere else because you already know that Moscow is bad. But wait until you move somewhere else. It's what is there as well. Spain, take it, or any other
But
place.
girls want to go to Spain after they visited Spain, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but as a tourist, come on.
As a tourist, exactly.
It's a bit different
But,
to live there than to be
I visited Spain 3 times, and I want more and more and more. I understood when I visited first time. I understood that it's my country. I don't know why. I just feel
But to be a tourist or be an unemployed in Spain is two different things.
So if you had, mind you, there's something nice about being unemployed.
and
to be
it's not about
literally
money.
poor.
I'm ready.
There is an appeal
to work,
where the tapas and the
not
wine
with
is
money.
cheap.
Okay, so if I was a Spanish employer, I would probably, target for
Yeah.
this.
Well, that's an interesting thing. If you look at something like TripAdvisor, if you're trying to, if you're trying to target people to move to Moscow, maybe you go to TripAdvisor and say who's taken
Good
a
reviews.
number of holidays in Russia, because that would show that they've got some kind of.
And not only negative comments.
If you just pick up what Alex said, thank you, you asked.
Yeah, I also
if
wanted
you-
to hear, to listen to the second.
Yes, now I'll see.
I'm choosing the United States because I lived there for some time, studied there. So maybe Japan and China because also I see myself there on the labor market.
And that's just a bit of feedback again from inside the corporates where I've worked at, and this is not just the graduate or the first 3 years of a career, middle management up to top management, 60-70% are willing to leave the country. So we have a problem here, not just selling Russia, we also have a problem with perception of Russia within Russia.
So maybe that's the start, but that's the first bit you have to work on, not bringing people in, but keeping people in. Without forcing them to stay.
But I got to tell you too, if you get from personal perspective, from a mature person perspective, if you ask me, you want to leave, I would really leave for a very strong reason only. Even though I see all the problems that there are in Russia, I see reasons to be here as well.
You have seen so much more than they have.
First of all, I've been here now for 17 years, yeah, and I'm not a masochist. That's what I was saying. First thing. Secondly, you should never leave because you want to go away. You should only leave somewhere because you want to go somewhere. Right? So it must be that pull is more important than being pushed out, of course.
Kind of changing jobs.
It kind of changing jobs. Exactly. There's always been a bit of push and pull, but if it's only the push, you tend to make the wrong decision.
So in here also, even in Moscow, it depends a lot where you live, what kind of quality of life you can afford. So if you're going in with decent employer, with decent proposal for a job, then what the heck,
What about anyone else? What other countries? What countries?
I guess if I do decide to go anywhere, it is going to be a safe place. It can be very culturally different. It can be culturally close, but it is going to be a safe place. Like we have Syria, and on the one hand, we have far quieter places.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Finland could be a good option for you then.
Sorry?
Finland could be a good option.
Yeah.
Not far away.
But seriously, profiling, you look at the person who've traveled to different places, maybe weird places, because also
It's a good place to source, go to TripAdvisor, see who's taking holiday, who's searched their professional profiles, then look at their TripAdvisor and say who's holiday, who's been here a few times.
Yeah, this is what the social media, the advantage it gives for those quote-unquote weird hires when you're really looking for hidden motives.
We do it all the time, so, I search music that people play in order to attract.
I was going to say books and stuff.
Books that people read, social games that they play. They play fine. What about you? What was your country?
Actually, I don't have any specific option because recently I have been filling a form from my current employer if I'm ready for a vacation or if I'm ready to spend a lot of time on business trips. But I think that just it can be any countries, Asian or from American. Just I don't know. It depends on the opportunities. Just some. Maybe just if they can provide me with some specific needs, I think I can go anywhere.
Brazil pays twice as much as America, and has great beaches. Right for you.
I want to move to USA, to the Bay Area, San Francisco, because I see the balance between innovations. It is very important for me. It's the center of innovations in IT, and between the good weather. It's also very important.
Startups.
Yeah, I'm in the valley, yes.
But you're in the startup thing, so
I'd move to San Francisco or New Orleans.
I lived in San Francisco for 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, San Francisco or New Orleans would be my choice.
What's wrong with San Francisco?
Well, he wants to move there.
It depends what you want out of life and what you want. I like San Francisco because all my clients and all the people I can possibly work with are on 3 streets.
Yeah.
Really.
So they work.
First, second, third, they're all recruiting technology companies, and there's about 20 of them. So I'm an advisor to 4 of them, so I can literally just walk from one office to two of them in the same building. So.
Depending where you live, though, I prefer upper north, but the same sure.
Yeah. I couldn't necessarily afford to live in the city.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And I wouldn't necessarily want my family there, so that would be another issue. New Orleans, I love.
But the reason why you cannot afford there is because you are robbed every time when you go there.
Yeah, I get robbed there. It's not a safe city.
How about you? What would you like to do?
Well, I'm in between London and San Francisco because of the work visa issues. I cannot be there yet.
And
Lithuania is my current spot because we have back office there. But most of the time I'm in the airport anyhow, so I'm spending Düsseldorf airport because I missed the flight here. So.
Yeah. But there's been really, I think we need to be aware, there's been a really interesting conversation.
So nobody wanted to stay actually, everybody wanted to was it
You wanted to stay?
Yeah, I'm staying. I'm here.
Oh, we get plenty.
Yeah, I think I will stay.
Tuesday.
But I like California, well, but I think I'll stay.
I'd love to go to Lisbon, but obviously no jobs there.
How about Germany? You guys have...
Lisbon,
yeah.
yes.
Whoever knows anything about what's in Germany right now in the way of employment situation?
Well, Germany, I suppose now, as you've got to read in the papers, it is the star economy report. Currently, the least unemployment is for ages. We're seeing a huge shortage. We're now seeing Spaniards, Greeks. They're now coming to Germany again.
Engineering jobs. Very hard to build.
It's very hard to fill. So the German economy now is doing very well, and the only thing that's keeping it doing even better is the fact that they're not enough qualified.
It's a labour issue.
It's a labour issue.
And because it's a labour issue, Germany is getting more and more relaxed about what they'll look at on notice.
Relax.
In terms of it used to be very, I've recruited Germany for a long time. I had an office in Frankfurt and Cologne. It was a very rigid system of this is what we want.
That's
this is what we get.
Absolutely.
This whole lot.
This is what we talked about in the first session about the selection part.
Yeah, I'm noticing that over the last 18 months it's relaxing along, using more social media, doing more things that you wouldn't have expected the Germans to do.
But it's slow.
Yes, of course.
It's still this. And
What you've got to remember about Germany is everybody's on 6 months' notice.
Yeah, but
So even when you hire someone, you have to wait 6 months before they can work for you. So it's a very different market. So I think we're kind of concluding. I think everybody's just coming in and sort of stick my head out the door and just close the day off. Good session.
yeah.
Excellent. Okay, everybody. We've just come to the end of the day. Thank you to those of you who stayed and survived the whole day of our madness. I know it's been different throughout the day. I found it really useful in terms of what I talked about this morning, which is understanding kind of the 30%. I think everywhere we go globally, about 70% of the conversation is the same over different recruiting issues, employment branding, social media, attraction. What do we actually do? 30% is local. 30% of it is local. So I've picked quite a lot up today, particularly around the international companies and where people want to work, and they want to work for state-owned organisations and the complications that causes in different areas that we work in. I've learned a lot about not to try and use Twitter to hire and do branding and that kind of things, perhaps here, and Facebook and which channels to look at, so that's really useful. I think you're facing, in the last session we had was very interesting, really, that you've got the two challenges, and one is a bigger branding issue over a country branding issue. If you're in a point where you're going to have to be attracting inward talent of people coming from different places, I think there are areas to concentrate on, like economic advantages. There's lots of places around the world right now which are not doing so well, which start to make other safer havens looking attractive in terms of employment opportunity. But I would say, looking very closely at the country branding aspects of how do you get people to say this is actually where I want to come and work. I think the point you made was another really interesting one in the last session, that maybe actually you fix the labour problem by finding ways and reasons in which people want to stay rather than people want to leave. So you started from that point of view of saying, right, okay, instead of trying to fix a different problem, which is we can't get anybody in, maybe we need to approach a different section. My first session this morning was titled "Everything You Know Is Wrong," and it's kind of, I think what we do a lot in recruiting and recruiting processes and talent attraction and everything else is we're trying to fix old problems, and the world's moving a lot quicker than we're fixing the problem. So we're trying to fix something from yesterday when actually it's not going to be a problem tomorrow. It's going to be a different set of issues, and it's a good time to start rethinking. I think one of the big areas which creates opportunity to rethink around particularly attraction and branding is something that came up about the fact that you access more, or you now access more, you spend more time on mobile applications than you do on the web. And then I think once you start looking at a new channel, you start thinking about what does that mean. Well, mobile means mobility. This is the area that I'm interested in. I'm less interested in the technology and more about when are people actually accessing, when are people actually using mobile to access. That always means downtime, so it means they're doing it as a secondary function. So the way in which you attract and message people needs to be quite different, because it needs to be dynamic and attractive. So if you then start thinking, okay, we're looking at a different type of medium, a new channel in the mobile world, if that's where people are going, that's what we need to be. We need to be thinking about where are people going and what are they doing. For instance, recently I've been looking at a lot of games that are being used for attraction. I'll tell you a brief story about probably the most innovative recruiting team I've seen for a long time. Is a company called RMS. RMS is Risk Management Services, and what RMS do is they provide financial modelling for insurance companies. So they measure risk to say, if flu spread around, if chicken flu spread around Europe, what would be the insurance risk? They potentially have 400 customers in the world, and they have all those 400, so they have no marketing presence. and they have a really ordinary name, being RMS, which could mean anything. So from an employer branding point of view and attracting people, they have a lot of difficulty because nobody knows who they are and nobody knows what they do, apart from people who work in that insurance sector. So what they did is the recruiter, the head of recruiting, Amelia, came home one day and her 8-year-old son was sitting with her husband on the sofa and talking and saying, if you cough without covering your mouth, does that spread more germs than if you sneeze? And she kind of said, that's a really strange question for an 8-year-old, why are you doing that? They said, oh, we're playing this game. I said, oh, what's that game? He said, the game is called Plague. So Amelia looked at it and said, actually, this game exactly mirrors what we're trying to hire. Because what the game is about how you spread diseases around the world and poison everybody. When they first invented this game, it was actually everybody's got a disease, how do we cure it? Nobody played it. So they changed it and said, how do we poison everyone? It became the 3rd most popular game in the ice. So being very creative, Amelia contacted the games company, Plague Inc., started a conversation with them and said, right, okay, so how can we work together? Because what people need to do in the game is exactly what we need to do in life. So they created a character in the game called RMS. And the character gives all of the technical, all the information that you need, the official news reports, everything had RMS on it. They've spent in total over a year, I think about $100,000 US, and they've had 1.8 billion brand impressions. And have totally changed their hiring, because they now hire people from the game, according to the scores they get. Now, I'm just telling that story, because I think it's a brilliantly creative story about how sometimes we need to think differently about modern day problems and not just continue doing the same things we always have. The second thing, exactly, as we talked about in the last session, I think what we have a unique opportunity to do now is we move our minds beyond transactional recruiting of we have a job, go find some people, send enough of them that job and say you're interested in it, and start looking at, okay, let's go and map, which we can do now, let's go and map the talent and what they do. What are they doing? Are they playing games? Are they going on mobile? Are they going to a particular place? Do they get employer branding? What are people really interested in? What's my desk going to look like? What's the view from the window? What's the social interaction? Something I found really interesting when we were talking about one of the difficulties international companies have is that international companies in Moscow were very kind of rigid over things like work hours and when you're there and run particularly American companies, and that didn't really sit with the Russian culture, therefore maybe less attractive. How do those companies translate how they are and actually create a real impression? I think when you were talking about Angola, saying this is the perception, this is what we have to put out there, you don't do that in single conversations. You do that over time by creating the right branding, creating the right message. So I think that's some of the really interesting stuff to think about from today. I was glad to know about the social media channels that you're using, which are very different to everybody else from domestic channels in terms of volumes, even down to the search engines. The vertical search engines people are using to look for jobs and that kind of thing. I think on a global scale that's useful information that I haven't heard talked about anywhere else. So it's been a great day for me. So thank you for attending True. We'll have about 70 events this year, and we're looking to go to 300 next year. We go to about 45, 50 countries, Aki and I, in between. So if any of you do ever go on Twitter, or you can find us on Facebook and other places, True, anyone who's ever been to the events, it's a great place for connecting with other people who do the same thing around the world. Because I think any community is built on one thing. Communities used to be built on locations. It used to be where you were, where you gathered. Now it's built around a common interest. What do we have in common with people anywhere in the world? So we have an opportunity. So please do connect with other people in the community, and we'll be back hopefully in 6 months. Thanks very much to Kelly for having us here and getting us here. And Kelly are our global sponsors, so what that gives us an opportunity to do is come to places like this without having to worry about it being a commercial success and say, let's put an event on get proper content out. So it's fantastic to be a part of the talent project, create content. So thank you, Kelly.